There's plenty of excitement among Gang Green Nation with Aaron Rodgers' arrival in New York, but how does this opportunity stack up with what he's had in the past? We're breaking that down today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. And, of course, a big welcome to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joseph, happy Cinco de Mayo day to you, my friend, my amigo. I assume you're getting a margarita?
Maybe not a margarita, but I will be celebrating with the consumption of Mexican food, which is elite cuisine.
Okay, very good. How about some tequila with your Mexican food?
Probably
I
a
feel like
Diet
that's part of the
Coke.
charm of Cinco de Mayo.
Do you have to? I don't know, man. I haven't had a spirit in a while, man. Haven't had a
let
spirit.
your hair down a little bit. Let your beard
Think
down.
so? Let the beard
let
down.
your beard down.
I'll have tacos and guac and chips and salsa. It's all happening for sure.
Do you like stuff in your guac?
What do you mean stuff in your guac? Like the normal stuff, like tomatoes, the lime juice, the
Right,
avocados.
but then, like, sometimes we go to the restaurants and they'll put like extra like vegetables or mango or like all that stuff diced up in your guac.
No. Tomatoes, lime juice, salt, avocados. Of course, no onions. Of course, no onions.
Chunky or pasty?
In between. I like a little chunk.
Just a little chunk?
Yeah.
You want to know that it's avocado and not toothpaste.
Yeah, but you don't want it to be too creamy. You don't want it to be too creamy.
Right. I agree.
That can be a problem.
I agree. Well, I'm glad, gangrene, guacamole, parallels, Cinco de Mayo. We're seeing how much common ground, in the same way that we just found common ground on guacamole, that we can find with Aaron Rodgers, the supporting cast he now has in New York, versus when the last time it was that he had supporting casts of this caliber in each component of a team. And the thought process here, Joe, is the conversation has been, well, Aaron Rodgers said he wanted to go somewhere where he felt like he could compete for a championship, and he thought the New York Jets were capable of that. And obviously Aaron Rodgers, last year the team finished kind of middle of the pack, just about every major statistical category on offense and defense. The pass catchers without Davante Adams and trading Davante Adams kind of felt like he got hung out to dry. And Jets fans are obviously very excited, and they should be very excited.
Yes.
I think the floor here for this team feels like a 10-win team.
I'd agree.
How high can the ceiling go? That's what we are designing ourselves to explore here and now by looking at, okay, the guys catching the football, the running game, the offensive line, the defense, the coaching. When's the last time Rodgers was in a spot that provided him something of the caliber of what he currently has? And that's what we're doing today on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I think 10 wins is kind of that floor. I think that's a good place to put it. 7-win team last year. They didn't score a touchdown their last 3 games. Had Flacco, Mike White, Zach Wilson at quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback is a major addition to this team, and so we don't want to make light of that. I mean, this is significant. It's definitely going to make the AFC even tougher, the AFC East, of course, even tougher. But it's going to be fun to also compare the lens here, where is the New York Jets providing this dreamland scenario for the future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers, or whether some pretty comparable opportunities in his past with the Packers. That'll be fun to explore today. Kyle, I don't want to I know that we got everyone to this point. We're ready to have the conversation, but I'm excited about what's coming next week and kind of in the coming months. You want to kind of tease that?
Do we want to tease it now?
Yes, right at the top, man.
All right. So
the everydayers deserve to know what's coming up.
We are getting ready to, starting next week, we are going to be going team by team across the league. And we're going to evaluate your entire roster. We're going to spend a day watching film on your team. And then we're going to have a bucket that we're going to put all the players on your roster in, whether they're cornerstones, quality starters, adequate starters, quality depth, replacement level players, incomplete evaluations, rookies, practice squad caliber player, like the gauntlet, right? And we're going to go through all teams across the league over the next couple of months. And the objective is to paint these very vivid pictures of what teams have the most upward and downward mobility based on key players, what players or what teams we feel like have the highest floor with their roster, what teams feel like have the lowest floor and the lowest ceiling with the rosters that they have assembled as things currently stand. And then we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff that is being able to compare teams across the league, with the objective being you as a fan gaining a further appreciation for your team through having an expansive knowledge of the entire league. That's the goal. We're starting that next week. Now, we will do some college prospects too, like the top names. But
college prospects too, Kyle?
Everybody's eager about college prospects. No mock drafts, though. No big boards. But through July, you are going to have a chance on this show to become a better fan by understanding intimately the state of the league by all 32 teams.
Cannot wait. All right. Let's do this thing today that we're going to do.
Now that we're 6 minutes in and we haven't started the process.
It's all right. We'll start the process right now. Here it is, baby.
Okay.
Pass catchers.
So pass catchers is our first, obviously, quarterback. Aaron's Aaron, right? And he's still playing at a fairly high level. I don't know if he's what he was 10 years ago, but I didn't see this dramatic drop-off from Aaron himself versus what it was the 2 years previous when he won MVP. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, look, no, he's not what he was 10 years ago, but the Jets need to be what he was 2 years ago, right? That's a lot shorter of a distance to get there. And, I think you can make a case that he is coming off of his worst season, right? That's true. But how much of that was circumstantial based on the injuries, so many new pieces, young pass catchers, defense didn't quite live up to expectations. So, Aaron Rodgers will be a big boost to the quarterback room, obviously.
So pass catchers. I have the pass catchers written down for the Jets. It's Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Randall Cobb. I did put Corey Davis on this list, although it comes with an asterisk in that we don't know if he's going to make it through the offseason or not. Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah. The running backs are a separate conversation, so they're not included here. Any omissions here?
Nope. Yeah, the same guys down that I had as meaningful pass catchers.
Okay, so when's the last time the Aaron Rodgers had a pass catching core that was comparable / better than what the Jets are providing him in 2023?
Kyle, you got to go all the way back to 2021 with the Green Bay Packers.
We're on the same page. Let's go.
What he had, Devontae Adams. Heard about this guy? He's pretty good, right? Oh, Allen Lazard, that's the same player.
Same player.
Randall Cobb, that's the same player.
Same player, but 2 years older.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I don't know, what is he? He's probably at least the Mecole Hardman / Corey Davis of this group. And then this trio of tight ends and Big Bob Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, and Josiah DeGuara. That group of pass catchers at receiver and tight end is comparable, if not better, than what the Jets have in store for him this year.
So don't you feel like Valdes-Scantling, for Aaron Rodgers' purposes, I was talking with Pete Bukowski at Locked On Packers, and he said that anytime the Packers get in these third and short situations and they get cover one and he just throws slot fade down the field, he calls them transition goes.
Really?
Right? And he said when he was throwing them to Devontae Adams, they're unstoppable. But when he's throwing them to Allen Lazard doesn't stack vertically down the field. Doesn't MVS kind of feel like a better body type to run that route than Mecole Hardman? And that's just because, like, Lazard's Lazard, it's the same thing. Garrett Wilson's phenomenal, but you're comparing him to Devontae Adams 2 years ago. So, like, where it came down to for me was, like, okay, Randall Cobb, same, but 2 years older. Allen Lazard, same, but 2 years older. Adams over Wilson. The tight ends are comparable. Hardman and Valdes-Scantling. I think Valdes-Scantling, if you needed another player to run transition goes down the field versus Mecole Hardman's always kind of been like a horizontal stretch, speed, scheme, touch type guy instead.
Well, I think the Kansas City Chiefs told you which player they like better between Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Mecole Hardman.
Oh, wow. I walked right into that one. I'll shut up.
Right. It's right there. It's right there.
It's right. It's right there. It's right there. So 2021, we both had the same answer there. It's the last time that Rodgers had a better supporting cast in our eyes than what he has in 2023 with the Packers now and with the Jets. Now, remember, we said the floor for this team felt like 10 wins. Because I feel like Jets fans might come out of this podcast and feel like we're disrespecting their team. We're not doing that. But if you just looked at the pass catchers, I'd say they were more delicious in 2021 than 2023.
Yeah, and you were talking about supporting cast. You want the perfect supporting cast for your diet?
Delicious.
Built Bars, baby.
Ayo.
These things are awesome, man. You're looking for a delicious snack. You don't want all the sugar. You don't want all the calories. Then you got to try the best tasting protein bar on the planet. Built. They're awesome. They're healthy. They're delicious. They're delicious because they're covered in 100% real chocolate, just like this peanut butter puff Built Bar that I ate just a few minutes ago. And they come in great flavors like peanut butter puff and churro and brownie batter and coconut almond. They're all amazing flavors, covered in 100% chocolate, and they're healthy. Like we mentioned, they're low calorie, low sugar, high in protein, 17 grams of protein in this Built Puff that I just ate. We all want a little more lean protein. Well, there you go. Go to Built and check them out. You can get yourself a box of Built Bars by heading to Built.com. Use our promo code LOCKEDON15. It'll get you 15% off your next order, or you can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and pick up a box right off the shelf. They're in the pharmacy area of your local Walmart. Of course, you can check them out at Sam's Club and as well. Run in. You can get a mixed box at the Sam's Club. So check them out. Best tasting protein bars on the planet. You'll thank us later.
So running backs are next. The running back room between the Packers of the past and the Jets of the present. The Jets of the present has Breece Hall, Zonovan Knight, my guy Izzy Abanikanda, great ad for them, and Michael Carter.
Somehow you snuck in Abanikanda before Carter there.
Of course I did, because Abanikanda is going to be a better pro
than Michael Carter.
Yeah, I hate that for him that he's stuck behind Breece Hall, though.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about this is the best running back room that he's had since whenever, I want to talk about this dynamic with the Jets running back situation. You know, I think there's a lot of excitement about Breece Hall and what he was able to showcase last year. But I will also say this, that Breece Hall was in a really good system there with LaFleur, the wide zone scheme. And so you have a running back coming off of an ACL that
scheme change
is in a scheme change. And so I'm interested to see how that evolves.
And the team just drafted another running back.
And yeah, I mean, Abanikanda was he somewhere on day 3, right?
Yeah, he was mid-day 3, but regardless, they made the decision to draft another running back with Zonovan Knight, who was a rookie last year, and Michael Carter, who's a young player.
It's a very young backfield.
You have to go all the way back to 2022 to have a better running back stable than for Aaron Rodgers than what he has in Green Bay this year. By the way.
Last year, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. We agree on this. I'm wondering, we came into this conversation not comparing notes, so I'm interested to see where we fall on these. But, yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the criticism with Green Bay last year. It's like, hey, you got all these young pass catchers. Use Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You're paying both these running backs.
When they did, they were effective offensively when they ran the ball. They just didn't want to run the ball.
Right. So, I mean, and Aaron Jones is a good pass catcher too. I mean, he adds a lot there.
Correct.
And Breece Hall should be as well, right? We want to see more, right? We have a limited sample size.
If you put Aaron Jones amongst that group of 2021 pass catchers, he's probably the second best pass catcher on the team behind Devontae Adams.
Yep, and we didn't even do that. So there's your X factor in that conversation.
Right. If you needed if you need anything more to push that over the top, there you go. We just gave it to you.
You know what's
Anything
interesting?
Else with backs?
Yeah, I'll say this because I think we're kind of being mindful of like Packers history and what they supplied Aaron Rodgers. They had some stretches there where they couldn't get running back figured out, right? I mean, how many times did James Starks and Eddie Lacy, and then how quickly that tapered off? And
Eddie Lacy was fine until things got off the rails.
Eddie
Lacy was good there for a minute.
Let's just stop there.
A few minutes.
A few minutes.
Offensive line?
Yep.
Okay, how did you put projected starters for the Jets?
All right, this is what I have it down as. I have Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard.
Yep.
The center as McGovern/Tittman.
Okay.
The right guard is Elijah Vera Tucker, and then the right tackle as Max Mitchell/Billy Turner, and then /Mekhi Becton.
Man, so Becton's just a slash O-line 8.
Brother, I don't know.
I have no clue what you're going to get, right? He's one of the biggest X factors for the Jets.
Right, because he could, if he's on and he plays like he's capable of, he can be an impact starter.
Right.
But what do I have over the last couple of years to point to that suggests that's going to happen?
If he's on and he's the player that he's capable of being, he's the second best offensive lineman on the Jets behind Vera Tucker.
Yeah, no question.
But there's also a very realistic world where he's the seventh best offensive lineman on the team. So you've no clue what you're going to get.
The combinations, what this could look like, there's so many, dude.
Endless.
Like,
yeah.
You don't tell me there's not a path where Lincoln Tomlinson doesn't start and Elijah Vera Tucker and, I don't know, Tittman or Turner's your guards. I don't know, dude. Like,
I think Lincoln Tomlinson, from a price perspective, is one of the few guys that is locked into his position.
Man, but like if you just want to play your best players.
But
like,
you could put AVT at left tackle. You could put him at right guard. You could put him at right tackle. You could put Tittman at center or right guard. You could put McGovern at center or right guard. Becton.
Billy Turner can play right tackle or guard too.
Man, Billy Turner. Yeah, low-key a nice utility swing.
That was a great pickup.
At this stage in his career. Speaking of Billy Turner, he was on the offensive line that was last a better option for Aaron, in my mind, than what he has this year in New York.
I would agree.
2020?
Okay, so I went 20. I have 2020 written down, but then I also have 2019 written down just in case there was any doubt about 2020.
Okay, so the 2020 group was Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, that was his last year on the team. Elgton Jenkins, Ricky Wagner was really good. Billy Turner. I think Lane Taylor was on that group too.
Yeah, so if people are like, oh, 2020 is not better, 2019 definitively is better with Bakhtiari at left tackle, Elgton Jenkins at left guard, Corey Linsley at center. Holy smokes, that's a really good trio right there. Then Billy Turner at right guard, and then Brian Bulaga at right tackle. That was his last year with Green Bay, and he got a big deal from the Chargers.
Right.
So, definitively it's 2019, and probably it's 2020.
Well, I just think with the questions that, like, Tomlinson wasn't a player that warranted the deal that they gave him last year. Can he get back on track?
In a different scheme, right? He went there because of
in a
LaFleur.
Different scheme. Yeah, that's a great man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sure.
The scheme change is a big deal here, isn't it?
Yes.
Because a lot of the pieces that they brought in last year were LaFleur specific. And that's not to say they can't be effective players. Yeah, dude, Laken Tomlinson's kind of a weird one. You're right. Because they made the decision to bring back McGovern. They drafted Tittman. They have Vera Tucker, who's, you feel like, scheme diverse. That is kind of a weird limbo player. You're right. I'm intrigued.
All right, so 19/20.
20. Ricky Wagner was good, man. I don't want to hear it. You still had Linsley, Elgton Jenkins, and Bakhtiari.
Okay.
20. We're going over the defensive side of the ball here. Next on Locked On Dolphins, we'll finish with defense and coaching, comparing when the staff and the defensive side of the ball was last this robust for Aaron Rodgers in comparison with his history in Green Bay. Defensively, Joe, this Jets team was fourth in yards, fourth in points last year, top 5 defense in both major statistical categories. Really running a lot of this back, too.
Mm-hmm.
The nucleus of the team that was there, obviously they add a first-round pick, and Will McDonald is kind of an exciting wide 9 speed pass rusher with some upside. I wouldn't sleep on the addition of Al Woods at nose tackle as a big-bodied presence on the inside. He's an older player, but he's probably a 30-40% snap player and a really good role player for them. The secondary really was the identity of the team last year defensively, and then they bring in Chuck Clark. So some pretty sensible adds in addition to the entire nucleus of the defense being back from last year.
And you think about how much growth they showed from 21 to 22, and then now they get to take it to that next level. And Jermaine Johnson, year 2, he should have a bigger impact. Sauce Gardner was a rookie, right? I mean, like, let's not act like his rookie season is the best he's ever going to be. And I know he set a high bar, but even DJ Reed, who found a home there as a corner opposite of him, like there's reason to think that this defense, like from a personnel perspective, the major swaps, Sheldon Rankins is out, and we're going to lean more into Quentin Jefferson and Al Woods, and then just Chuck Clark. So you have a lot of year-over-year continuity.
Timeout. Jordan Whitehead's pretty good too.
Yeah, he is.
He's a pretty good player. So, when last year, who else did they have last year back there at the safety position? Didn't they have LaMarcus Joyner back there last year?
Yep.
Like trading out Chuck Clark for Joyner is a really nice development piece for that defense too.
Yeah, I'd agree, especially because Michael Carter in the slot's turning out to be a solid player there, and you don't really need that versatility as much from Joyner, or you can be a little bit more traditional with Chuck Clark and Jordan Whitehead, both good tacklers.
So this is a defense that in year 1 under Saleh was dead last in the league in both yards and points. And then they go to 4th. What is your expectation for sustainability of that top 5 defense performing like that again this year? So I think that's probably the defining question that we have to ask in order to get a gauge of measuring this Jets defense versus past Packers defenses.
If I'm a Jets fan, I'm expecting a top 5 defense, aren't you?
Yes.
Especially with a better offense. You're not going to be out there all the time. I mean, like, it was remarkable that for as much as this team struggled on offense to move the football and consistently score points, that the defense was able to be as stout as they were.
Okay. What about 2 turnovers after the bye week?
It's not great.
This defense forced 2 turnovers after week 10. Now, from a sustainability standpoint, that's probably something you would point to and say, well, law of averages says you probably won't go another 8 games and force 2 turnovers in 8 games. So, okay, I would say that's fair. They were had a little bit on the run defense throughout the course of the year. The Seahawks put almost 200 on them. The Jaguars put 147 on them. The Dolphins put 162 on them in the final 3 games of the season. So playing more balanced, complementary football, I think the hope is that you will have improvement there as well. But they were middle of the pack in rushing defense last year from a raw output standpoint. They gave up over 2,000 rushing yards last year, and that was 16th in the league. So Al Woods, Chuck Clark, can those guys improve that component?
Yeah,
and can you be more sustained with your turnovers? Because they forced at least 1 turnover in all 9 of their first 9 games and then produced 2 turnovers in the final 8 games of the season.
Yeah, I think those are good swaps. I mean, Sheldon Rankins is not going to be a guy that's really going to anchor and control his gaps, right? I mean, like, Al Woods will help with that, and I think Chuck Clark as well is a bigger-bodied safety. The other thing is, I know that turnovers were down late in the season, but, like, at what point did offenses realize it didn't have to be aggressive? You didn't have to take chances. Just stay in the game, right? I mean, because the Jets aren't going to be able to score with you. You don't have to put the ball in harm's way. And so I think that's something worth mentioning as you see the downtick in turnovers. And eventually, you just realize, okay, this Jets defense is really, really real. Quit toying with them.
Right. Okay. So what did you have What did you have in your notes?
Yeah, so the objective here is for us to find the last defense that was better or comparable to what the Jets are going to afford Rodgers this year. And this was the hardest one for me because from a talent perspective, Green Bay has first-round picks all over their defense, right? I mean, it's really, really, really talented, but it hasn't really delivered. And so, Kyle, I went all the way back to 2010, that Packers defense.
Super Bowl year.
Yeah, well, they were. I don't know if they were. That was the year before they went 15-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, they won the Super Bowl that year.
Okay, so they were
2010,
number 2.
they won the Super Bowl. They had top 5 defense in both yards and points, and then they regressed. Their offense blew up, and they were middle
So they went
of the pack
15-1 and didn't win the Super Bowl?
Correct. They lost in the divisional round, so they lost their first playoff game that year.
So like you mentioned, number 2 in scoring that
McCarthy
year,
special.
number 5 in yards, but number 2 in DVOA, right? I mean, just a very sound defense. Some of the stars of that unit. I mean, you had a pair of Pro Bowl corners in Charles Tillman and Tremont Williams, Nick Collins, a stud at safety, Clay Matthews, A.J. Hawk, B.J. Raji, Colin Jenkins was really good that year, Ryan Pickett, Desmond Bishop, Frank Zombo, Charlie Pepper, the other safety on this defense. That unit was very, very, very strong. And I think that's, like I said, they've had a lot of talent, but they never delivered like they did in that 2010 season. So
I'm going to buy in with you. I had written down from a talent perspective, it felt like it was that 2019-2020 stretch that had Zadarius Smith. It had Jair Alexander. It had Adrian Amos. It had Darnell Savage when he was playing at his peak, I think was 2020, when he was, before he had regressed. Chandon Sullivan was a meaningful player on that team. You of course, in the middle of the defense, you had Kenny Clark as the plug. But I would agree if you were going to measure from a performance standpoint and not a talent standpoint, what the Packers did in the early 2010s is the closest thing to what the Jets provided defensively last year.
Right. That's just because the Packers wasn't happening on defense. They weren't maximizing their talent on defense.
Isn't it funny how that always works, though? Oh, you've got bona fide star quarterback. Defense. We'll just be middle of the road. We don't need it. Oh, we can't score points. We're going to have a killer defense.
Right.
It's like they always end up falling into that.
It's hard to be good at both.
Right.
So definitively 2010?
Definitively 2010. I think you can make a conversation for the 2 years that the Packers won 13 games when Aaron won MVP, that the talent was comparable.
Yeah. But they were like a middle of the pack defense, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were ninth in yards and I think 13th in scoring defense or something like that.
Solid.
So they were like plus 170 in point differential the 1 year. And then I think they gave up, how many points did they give up? I don't want to make sure I get it right. They gave up 313 points in 2019.
2010 was what, 240?
2010, sources tell me, was 240 points. Yeah. So,
and this is where you get excited, right? If you're a Jets fan, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe there's been things offensively that have been good around Aaron, and obviously, I mean, he's won 2 of the last 3 MVPs, right? But has he had a defense that can deliver like the Jets? That's where I get excited, right? Where it's not, he doesn't have to, I mean, he's going to have to carry the team, right? Because he's a franchise quarterback, but maybe not. He can lean on the defense to get a stop, right? It's going to be okay to put them back on the field.
Yes.
They'll get a stop for you.
How about coaching?
This was tough, right?
Yeah, it was hard. I didn't go too deep into it.
No, I didn't go too deep in it. I just went back to 2021, Kyle. Because let's just do it.
Same offensive coordinator.
It's the same offensive coordinator, so that's a wash. Matt LaFleur is a more proven coach than Robert Saleh, right?
Correct.
So you get the bump in head coach. And then I don't know, Joe Barry versus Jeff Ulbrich as your DC.
And Saleh obviously has a heavy hand on the defensive side of the ball anyway.
Right, like
yeah, I had the same thing written down. 2021.
And the tiebreaker's LaFleur. I mean, he's won playoff games. He's had 13 win seasons, like 3 of them. Robert Saleh hasn't had a winning season as a head coach. He's had 2 losing seasons, right? Maybe if you let it play out, there's a great story to tell with Robert Saleh, but there's no planet where you can say that he's a better head coach than Matt LaFleur right now.
What a great life to be living as Matt LaFleur and be 47 and 19 as an NFL head coach.
Right. Compare that to like Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor's going to have like 3 more amazing seasons with Joe Burrow to get out of the hole that he started off in with those first couple seasons.
They won, 6 games? There's his first 2 seasons there?
Yes, dude. Something like that. The journey there is going to be big.
Yeah, 2-14, 4-11, 4-11-1, 10-7, 12-4. They would have to go 12-5. If they went 12-5 this season, Zach Taylor would still have a losing record for his career.
Right.
Matt
That's
LaFleur sitting here like
plus
man. 30 games in 4 years.
Right. He went 13-3 his first 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, they're 13-4 there in the 3rd year.
Okay, yeah, tomatoes, whatever.
Draft dudes do math. But.
Tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's Friday doing
Plus
math.
28 games. Friday doing math. So, for the narrative for what Aaron Rodgers has versus what he's had, I think, Joe, you and I are both in agreement. The offensive infrastructure is comparable to recent years, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because recent years has been MVP caliber play 2 of the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Including one of those years, I think it was like 48 touchdowns and 5 picks. Like, just bonkers numbers. So, what is the intersection of parallel or comparable support on the offensive side of the ball and coaching with Aaron and his physical peak performance as he has aged into his late 30s? And then where does the defense, which is the best Aaron has had backing him in a very long time, you have to triangulate all of those factors to figure out what the ceiling is here for the Jets. And that's why it feels like, for both of us, we said at the top, it feels like the floor is double-digit wins. And what you do from there is going to be determined by triangulating all of those things.
Well said. Is there another layer of this that the recent quarterbacks that switched teams didn't really work out? Right, like
that's the big mystery.
There is a mystery here,
dude. You're in New York too,
and Green Bay, small town kid growing up too, man.
You are not in Kansas anymore, right?
Right. We're gonna have 3 10-win teams in the East, at least 3 double-digit win teams, and then there's the Patriots.
Okay, well, Joe said it, not me, so we're gonna wrap on that one. Kyle Crabbs. Joe Marino, Locked On NFL Scouting. Shout out to our everydayers who keep it locked in because it is your teams every day here on the Locked On Network. We hope that you hit subscribe, come back and see us again soon. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Enjoy your weekends. We'll be back again on Monday. Joe, we're starting with the Indianapolis Colts, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So film deep dive on the Colts roster on Monday. Plan accordingly. Hope to see you there. Peace.